No fancy trickery here. That is in fact rear powered windows. Now let's take a dive in and I'll show you how this is made. And just so you know, this is just like an extra one. I'm not going to be using this exact U-joint because I will be messing up the threads while I'm pre-drilling these things. But this is a good mock-up for this tool. Just a little indentation just so this can't slide once it's pinched on there. It's pretty good. All right, 2 more to go. For this last one here, you kind of want to get these as lined up as straight as possible. That way you can keep these U-joints in phase. If they're off a little bit, especially in drive shaft in cars, they get a little wonky and they ovalize when they like spin. You just gotta try and get these in somewhat the same spot. And for this window mechanism, I don't think it's that critical, let's be honest. But I will try. I'm just gonna eye it up here and make a good guess. Good enough. Welding this piece into the car is kind of critical. You want to get it lined up as close or as best as you possibly can. And generally, this pin right here going straight up and down, you want the same angle going all the way through. Because when this inside piece and the shaft on the inside spins, you want to spin kind of with this pin in a way. So I got one tacked right here so far, and it looks pretty good. Now there's no way for me to really line this up perfectly. When we do the mechanism on this catch here, I use this pin here and just a little bit of tubing here. And the idea here is just to make it a little bit bigger so there is some slop in it, so there is some play. Because when this thing spins and turns on this, it's gonna kind of revolve around the whole mechanism, the way this spins. If you look at the kits, they usually have like an oval shaped hole cut out on their mechanism the way they do it, but I found this works just as good. But I think that's pretty straight. It looks pretty good. I'm just gonna burn this in a little bit better. Nice and burned in. Just 3 hot spot welds, as hot as you can get it, because I use an 1/8 inch metal for a plate to hold that in. This is all thin, but you really want to burn that in pretty good. Now with the U-joints connected on the motor here, or the servo rather, you want to slide this up almost all the way flush with the U-joint here. You don't want it touching, you just want to give it like a little breathing space. And then bring your motor, well for me, I'm gonna bring it close to the windowsill, not like, give it like a little bit of space right here. Just a little bit of space up top, just a little wiggle room. I think I'm happy with that. So we'll get a hole marked here. And a hole marked there. I'll drill these out. I'll pull the bracket off the motor here, and I'll get the other 2 holes drilled, and we'll get the bracket bolted to the firewall here. Alrighty, with the window back actually in the car, I can kind of show you how this is gonna work. I don't even know why this isn't locking there, but usually that would lock normally, which, whatever. Your window only needs to open up to that far. I'll be lucky enough if I even get that much maneuverability out of the motor, we'll see. But anyways, got this piece here already made up. I just got like a random length, doesn't have to be super long. It just has to be as long as this pick here. And then what's crucial is getting this other piece here to fit in between here. This one just slides randomly, but we're gonna put a set screw so it grips that shaft so it can spin with the motor. The important thing is, while it fits this distance here, once this actually closes, if you don't have this perfectly centered with this pin, it's gonna revolve around it, which means this gap here is gonna get bigger or smaller. So you really wanna get this shaft as straight as possible, or in line with this hinge part right there, which I'm not perfectly straight there, but that's why you make this hole a little bit bigger so you have a little bit of play. You don't want no binding or anything like that, otherwise it could fail down the road. All right, so here we go. That was a super good fit. Basically all I gotta do is weld this to there and weld that to there. I'll kind of rotate this around for you so you can see it's still touching on both sides of the piece of the pipe there. So I think we're good. So we'll get this welded up. I think I want to lower this a little bit. I'll weld this one in the middle of this pipe so I don't burn through the edges of this pipe. And then this one will just kind of sit somewhere right there. All right, get this welded up real quick. All right, now that's welded, next we gotta check to make sure this still fits on here. So first we get this hinge back in here. You kind of have to screw this in and out a bunch of times just to get this just right. But let me throw this back in, it's just 2 screws, and then we'll see how this fits up again before we weld this fully. Okay, let's see. No set screw on this yet. Put that in there. Still touches, that's good. So it's still nice and tight when it's fully open right here, but obviously when it gets to over here, it's a little loose. And that's where you want to really get this pin as straight as you possibly can. But if you can't, it's just when you weld this in, it's kind of moved, so it's really hard. You'd have to make a jig to make this perfectly straight. But that's why you put the slop in this hole here. You make it bigger than this shaft here, so you have all that wiggle room again. And I believe even that kit, that Japan kit, it's the same way. They have theirs a little bit different, but they make it bigger than it has to be, so you get all that extra room for play. I guess it's just the nature of the beast. It is what it is. But anyways, this will sit right there, and all we really got to do now is mark this where we want this welded. Which, if I'm in between these green lines, I'm good. You just want to make sure when you weld this, it's just perfectly straight up and down with this one here. You don't want it turned a little bit, otherwise it won't work. But that's you already know that. And that's what sucks. Every time you gotta take this off, you gotta either do it under this catch here or take apart the motor. But it's just easier for me just to take these screws out. We're getting to the home stretch here. We're almost there. Back in the car, fully welded, hinge bolted back in, and we have perfect, no binding anyways. Perfect mobility right here. It's pretty good. So now all you really need to do is drill a hole in here and do a set screw, but you can't just put it anywhere, and I'll show you why afterwards. But for now, I'll just get this done, and then I'll show you how this works. Before I go any further, I just want to talk briefly on this motor here. They're pretty inexpensive. I think they're 20 bucks a piece on Amazon. So I spent 40 bucks using 12 volt at 5 RPM. Basically, it's going to spin in a circle, 5 revolutions per minute. Don't get anything any higher than this. Stay at 5, maybe even 2. 2 would probably be a little bit better. You don't want these windows opening up super fast. Like, you're just looking for trouble if you have something that spins that fast. Although being a slower revolution per minute, it is more torquier, so you got to be careful. But I just picked 5 RPM, just a solid guess, and I'm just going to run with these. If I was to pick again, I'd probably go with like a 2 RPM or a 3 RPM. But again, these are pretty inexpensive. They're just little servo motors. They're not the greatest. For, you know, for 20 bucks, you get what you get. I think this one can pull 50 kilograms or something like that. I don't. You have to do your research. You can check them out for sure. But they're very torquey and they're very capable of the job here. But yeah, just wanted to let you guys know. All right, so now we got this drilled and tapped with an M4 scrub screw. And let's get this back in the car and see what we did. That's just basically locking the shaft so it doesn't spin freely anymore. I will say, after all said and done, I have less than $100 US into this kit here. And mainly it's just the two servo motors. The servo motors are about 20 bucks a piece. And then those little U-joints were like $10. And then there's just a little bit of wiring. I already had some plugs and a lot of lathe work. So I guess really under 60 bucks US dollars, you could build this kit too. Oh, and the limit switches and the diodes, you can't forget those. And those are like another 15 bucks. So we'll call it 75 bucks and you can build this whole kit. All right, now remember earlier when I said it was crucial where you drill this hole and set screw? Well, that's gonna determine where your limit switches are and your diodes and all that stuff is. You have to get that right, otherwise, how do I say this? The servo motor has a flat spot where your set screws are gonna hit, and that you can't change that position, so that is what it is. So next you wanna build this bracket in a way, you know, this is really hard to explain. In other words, if you get that set screw right there in the wrong spot, it's going to be all out of whack, and then your windows won't operate at the same time, and you won't get to shut all the way or open up all the way. And you really gotta kind of start right here and basically force this pin all the way in your limit switch. And once it's fully closed, you're gonna want to like slide this freely all the way to where the window is closed, and that's when you're gonna drill your hole into your set screw. I would do it on closed, because then if you did it while it's open and then drill your hole, you don't know if it's gonna fully shut when you go to shut it. So you really wanna have the window shut first and then drill it and put it in. And then when you turn your motor the opposite way, it's gonna hit the other limit switch on the other side, and that's just gonna limit it to how far the window can open. Now these windows can't open up fully all the way, they're just off a little bit, because this hinge actually, it rotates almost 360 degrees. It's probably like 270. And with this bracket and limit switch, I'm only getting like 200 degrees out of this, like the rotation. So it's not fully opening and shutting the window. I kind of have it balanced in the middle. As you can see, this hinge here needs to actually be in way more to actually lock it. But I'm confident with it off. The motor, these servo motors, they're full of gears. You can't spin these freely. They only spin under the motor's power. You can't manually spin these motors. So it's kind of like its own locking mechanism in a way. So I basically have this set almost to fully shut. That way when it does spin open, it will open up basically full. I'd say they open up about 95%. They're really close, and let's be honest, you don't really need much more than that. If I don't have to shut the car off and reach into the back of the seat to open these windows, I'm calling that a win. So I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. Another thing too, if you do try to go this route, these limit switches, you just got to make sure they're set for 12 volt. Well, I'm using 12 volt system. And then the diodes, you want to make sure you get a 12 volt diode. Even more, you want to be able to handle it. I made a mistake by just getting what I thought were 12 volt diodes, and they wouldn't block the power fully. So even though like it would hit, some power would still travel through it, and this would continue spinning, basically jamming up into the limit switch. And you don't want that happen, because you're basically gonna, you know, I don't even know what would happen. These things are so torquey, I wouldn't be surprised if something snapped or gave out, or I don't really know. But yeah, you definitely need the diode when you do these limit switches. The diode basically lets current go through one way and not the other. It's kind of like a check valve, but for your electricity. I can't really explain more of it. I just kind of stumbled upon a couple of YouTube videos and I watched them, and I just know that you need, for this application anyways, you need to have those diodes. It'll make or break the way the whole system works. I can't really explain it more than that, but there is a couple detailed videos on the interwebs. Feel free to you know, go explore that. But anyways, this does work, and I've tried it enough times that I think it's gonna be solid. Now, as for this shaft plate here, I don't have like a Zerk or a grease fitting, and all I did was just grease the shaft and throw it in. And it seems pretty smooth for now, but I would imagine over time it's gonna dry out, but I really don't know. We'll have to see. And my game plan for the switch, here's my climate control box here with the heated seats, the heater core, fan speed and whatnot. I have this option here, it's for a sunroof. I don't have a sunroof, but I basically want to use the up and down buttons as the actuators for the window to open them up and shut them. So that's my plan anyways. It should be as easy as finding the right pin out. I do have all the plugs still on the table here, as I need to get this wiring sooner or later, but I think that's the last electrical component to the car that I'm gonna be running. minus a few little bits here and there, maybe like a 12-volt power source here plug. I might throw that in there somewhere. But for the main of the car, I basically have all the electrical components in the car that I'm gonna need. So now I think really I can start the wiring and sorting some stuff out. I do need to get this window back in. I had to do some repair over here. A pain in the ass that was. You wouldn't believe this or not. Well, actually, go over here. I have an old window here, and you can see they split. And this whole time, I thought these were stainless steel and just chrome plated, but it turns out the ones that I have, they're actually brass. And this one had the same crack in the back, and I had to repair it. And I've never done or TIG brazed or soldered brass before, but that was a whole experience right there. But I managed to fix the crack on this one. Luckily, the other window frame is in good shape, and I can't find these window frames anywhere. And when you do find them, they're pretty expensive. So luckily, I was able to repair that one, and I have the glass for it here, and I do have the rubber seal that goes inside. I bought a new kit on mini spares, and even the hinges themselves, they're brass. I stuck this in the sandblaster, and it does turn out to be brass. And I don't think I'm gonna leave them brass. I think I'm just gonna paint them black. They look great in black. There's no reason. I mean, if I sand this all down to brass, it would probably look funny, realistically. So we're not gonna go that route. They're just gonna be painted black. And that's basically gonna be it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you're intrigued with this kit and you want a little bit more knowledge or info about it, I'll be happy to tell you a little bit more in depth of how I went about this. Basically, I just kind of freestyled the whole thing, and then I replicated it to the other side. The shafts are completely solid brass. The U-joints are like some kind of metal, and the sleeves here, those are all stainless steel, and the bracket itself is just some mild steel. So it's a little bit of everything put into this kit. All right, guys. On to the next one. I'll see you next week or next month or whenever. I got a trip coming up, so this might be the last video for a little bit. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.